All right, what's up, guys? I'm Charles Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, to get you on health and social well-being. Today is July 5th. It's Sunday, my primary bench day of the training week. Hopefully you all had a happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. I know that's kind of like a controversial thing to say now, which to me is kind of funny. And the reason I say it's funny is because it's like, my view on it is very simple. I can acknowledge all the different areas in which we need to grow and improve as a nation while still being grateful for the freedoms and opportunities that I currently have. I kind of view the nation the way that I view myself or a friend, where it's like, I'm not gonna make excuses for areas where I need to, like, you know, build up and do better, but I'm not gonna negate the areas where I have grown and have done well at the same time. That's kind of my view on it. So that's why I choose to, you know, celebrate it, obviously. But anyway, about to get to this workout. Before we do, got to catch you guys up on the past few days. So this past Wednesday, Amber, my wife, and I, we went out of town for our 1-year anniversary, and we went to Miami, Florida, which was an amazing trip for a few reasons. The first one being the fact that it is our 1-year anniversary. Like, you only get one of those, right? Like a 1-year anniversary as far as when you're married. And it was just, it's crazy because I still remember our wedding like it was yesterday. So to have our wedding, or like, you know, to already be like a year since our wedding is kind of crazy to me, but like, it was a really good time. The second thing was, this is the first trip that I have ever taken since, you know, starting my own online coaching business, where I did not work like at all. Like, all my clients that had blocks to do, I made sure I got all their blocks into them early before we left for the trip. And then I sent a huge email to all my clients letting them know that for those few days, Wednesday through Saturday, that I wouldn't be doing the usual like immediate response 24/7 like feedback responses, just because my wife Amber is an angel. I know, you know, I'm supposed to say that, right? But no, seriously, she is. She's so loving, kind, and supportive. And she's the type where, you know, it could be 2 in the morning, we're chilling, watching a movie, one of my international clients hits me up for some feedback, I pause it, set my camera up to give them feedback, talking, whatever, and she, like, very rarely ever complains about it. So I just wanted to be able to dedicate our anniversary and those few days to just her and not working, and which is honestly very well needed. Like, she always reminds me to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, not pouring from an empty glass. So it was just a really good recharge, a time of rejuvenation. And the third thing is, of course, the only work that I did do was working out. We did still go to the gym. We were at Hybrid Performance, which is really cool, because we went there last year for our honeymoon. We were in Miami for our honeymoon with Hybrid Performance, but I actually got to meet Steffi Cohen this time, which was dope. Really, really nice. And your boy was wilding out in terms of PR. So that Wednesday when we flew in, we went to Hybrid Performance for my secondary deadlift day, and I hit 529 pounds for a PR set of 2 on a secondary day. And then Saturday, so y'all know that 2 weeks ago, your boy hit a 501-pound squat PR single back when we were in Houston, but it was technically supposed to be like a double at RP6 that day, but, you know, Coach Brad told me if I was feeling good, I can push it, so I did. And then last week, we just hit our squat double at RP7. So this past Saturday, we had a double at RP8, and your boy PR with 463 pounds for a smooth PR double. And then if that wasn't good enough, man, we finished off on deadlifts. Had a single, was feeling really, really good. We pushed it, and your boy is finally pulling the 600s. We pulled 606 pounds for an all-out 1-rep max PR. And once again, guys, to be hitting these numbers with no peak, no taper, still doing very high volume, still, you know, fatigue being where it's at, because, like, you know, we're not tapering, pulling things back when we're pushing these heavier numbers. We're just the base is rising. Like the base is rising. I'm actually getting stronger, building more muscle mass. So what I can do on any given day is just going up. And when I'm feeling good, I'm able to push it more. So super, super happy about that, man. Like, to finally be squatting the 500s, pulling the 600s, and still filling out the 83 kg weight class, still nowhere near the top of that, just lets me know how much more room there is to build and grow, especially with nationals no longer happening. That gives me even more time to just keep building until I compete again. So I'm very, very excited about that. But yeah, I just had to catch you guys up with all that. Let's get into this bench workout. We've got a top double at RP 8. I have no clue what I'm about to hit, just because we did just fly back in today. But hopefully I'm feeling good enough to hit something nice. We'll see. Hi guys, so I've got 347 pounds on the bar. My best ever double is 352 pounds, and I feel like this is gonna be the right move for today just because I know I'm feeling that acute fatigue from yesterday, from pushing the deadlifts especially. I can push squats pretty well and still feel pretty good on bench, but I've noticed whenever I hit like a pretty big deadlift, just my overall nervous system has me feeling just a little bit weaker the next day, which is to be expected. So I'm gonna play it safe with 347 pounds, and that way I can hopefully push for even more next week. So I believe I'm gonna probably have like an RP9 next week, and then that's setting myself up to possibly hit a PR double versus trying to force 352 today out of some sense of pride and then screw myself over for the following week. So let's see how this moves. Come on, you got it. Alright guys, so I was actually really happy with how that moved. That actually moved and felt smoother than my 341 last week. I already know that when it comes to lows this heavy, when we're talking about bench, squat, or deadlift, but really especially on bench, just due to like my range of motion and the close grip that I use, I have to go more based upon how I can maintain position and tension, not so much speed, because 347 is just not gonna move at the same speed as like 314, right? But today felt really, really good by comparison. And one thing that I've done as a little tip to you guys is, you guys probably know that, you know, at one point I was telling you guys the importance of, hey, when you use your wrist wraps, make sure you're getting them tight enough to actually support the joint, which is true. But I've learned that there is such thing as getting it too tight. Not so much when you're squatting, because when you're getting in position on the squat, the bar's gonna kind of keep your wrist in position. But with bench, as I've told you guys, what we really want to focus on is we don't want to just grab the bar like this. We want to wedge that bar into the lower part of our palm, which if you guys saw my bench tutorial setup video that I did with my client, Michael C, you guys already know how to set up for the bench press, but we're setting it up as low as we can into our palm. We're almost internally rotating our shoulders first to get it low into the palm. Then we get a nice full grip. And then when we set ourselves up, we're actually getting the wrist cocked back like so. A lot of people have been taught like, oh, keep the wrist joint straight, but this is actually like the weakest position for the wrist to be in, especially when you're bench pressing, because as you're pressing up, it's so easy for this to just go forward and then cause your bar path to go up and forward instead of up and back. So we want to keep the wrist joint like this. But the thing is, for a lot of people, if they put the wrist wraps too tight, it's very hard to keep it in this position, which if we think about it, kind of makes sense, right? Like if I put this wrist wrap on, and I get it on as tight as what I can. I like double wrap it, get as tight as what I can around that joint. Then when I'm gripping a bar really, really tight, it's naturally trying to keep my wrist in this position. It's very hard to kind of get it back the way I want, especially when pressing upward. It's gonna make you want to stay straight like this, which isn't the position you want to be in. That's why you'll see a lot of high-level bench pressers actually don't use wrist wraps, because they find it's easier to keep their wrist joint stacked back like this without the wrist wrap. But if you're somebody where you feel like you kind of like and need the support of the wrist wrap, but don't want it so tight to where it's going forward, the key is to just put it on tight enough just to support that joint. So rather than doing it excessively tight, I make sure it's on and it's supporting the joint, but that I can still easily keep this cocked back the whole time. Like this takes no effort now to keep it in this position. Whereas when I had it as I did before, trying to get it back like this was hard because I can feel it trying to force it into this position. So that's just a quick little tip for you guys to hopefully help you out with your positioning on the bench press. For those of you who haven't seen my bench press setup tutorial video with Michael, I'll have the link in the description box down below But next we've got back down sets with 12% less of the top set. So that's gonna be about like 305 pounds. The closest we'll get to that is 303. So we're gonna load that up and knock out our 5 back down sets of 4. All right, guys, hopping in for a voiceover. Just wanted to kind of explain a few things as far as like how the rest of this workout went. So my back downs felt really, really good, really, really smooth. You guys are gonna see with my accessory work that all of that was feeling great as well. And I actually, at this point, thought that, okay, you know what? I think I'll be pretty good for the rest of this week. Probably won't have to make too many adjustments as far as fatigue, just due to traveling. The thing with me is, in general, I actually don't tend to like have my training thrown off too badly with traveling as far as when I go to the place that I'm traveling to. Now, whenever I get back from where I'm traveling to, that's when things seem to kind of hit a little bit harder. And I feel like a big part of that is simply due to the fact of, you know, going on, like I said, that 1 year anniversary vacation with my wife, which is very relaxing. So even though things were a little bit different in terms of like, you know, training schedule, the fact that we were just, you know, we were eating and sleeping and resting and just very low stress. Like I said, I wasn't working during this time. I think that's a big part of what allowed me to just go in and really kill those sessions. But with coming back, getting the usual swing of things, getting back to normal client interactions, you know, stress levels just go a little bit higher. And when I say stress, I don't even mean like in a negative as far as de-stress. Like eustress is a form of stress as well, but I just mean like, you know, doing more as a whole. That's just going to be a little bit more, you know, mentally and physically taxing. So I quickly realized pretty much not during this session, but the next day you guys are going to see Monday for my high bar squats that I definitely had to scale some things for my overall recovery for the rest of this week. Basically, I was supposed to work up to a top set of 6 at an RP 7.5 to 8 on my high bar squats. And last week I hit that PR with 375 pounds for my top set of 6 at like a solid RP 7. So when I was warming up, I already could tell my body's feeling a little bit So I was like, okay, we'll just maybe take a small jump, see how 385 feels. And you guys are gonna see that I ended up stopping right at 3 reps. Not because I couldn't have gotten all 6 reps, but just because of how bad it was feeling, I knew it would have felt overshot. And it's just not worth building up even more fatigue. My body's already feeling really fatigued from the work that I did this past the past weekend, you know, with my heavier squats and then that deadlift PR. And it's just one of those things where there's give and take, right? It's like I pushed things really hard early in the week, so that just means I had to scale things back here. So just ended up cutting it at 3 reps, then got through my back down work and just accepted that, okay, you know what, squats and pulls are gonna feel kind of for the rest of this week, but that's okay. Get the fatigue off, and then we'll see how things transition into the following week. The good news is if you guys see this right here on screen, even though I was feeling it wasn't moving horribly. Like, you have to pretty much really know what my movements look like and be able to tell like when I'm feeling like gassed in order to tell if this was feeling bad or not. But it wasn't even so much how I was moving, it's just very much how I was feeling, primarily on my upper back and my erectors, which once again to be expected after that big deadlift PR. The good news is I came in that following day on Tuesday and actually managed to hit a bench PR just because everything was normal as far as what I did for bench, so nothing felt off. I hit 314 pounds for a PR set of 5, which I was really, really happy with. As I've explained to you guys over and over, anything over like 2 to 3 reps is just sucks for me on bench, just because it's a pretty long range of motion for me. So whenever I'm seeing progress on like, you know, those sets of 5, 6, 7, it makes me really, really happy because I know that, you know, just overall strength is going up, and that definitely carries over to like, you know, my triples, doubles, and singles. So bench all in all felt really, really good and smooth. But yeah, just wanted to come in and explain that part of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of it, as it's going to be pretty informative in nature. Guys, so it is Wednesday, tertiary squat day, secondary pull day. You guys just saw it in the voiceover part of this video, how yesterday went, and more specifically how Monday went. Because we're trying to offset some of this fatigue that came from, like, you know, the big heavy squats and pulls earlier this training week, we're just scaling these a little bit today. So I still have light percentage-based squats, and the percentage is still increasing from what it was last week. But instead of doing 5 to 6 sets of doubles, I'm just gonna do 4 sets of doubles today. And then on deadlifts, instead of progressing the top double from last week, we're gonna do a top triple at a nice easy RP of 6. Instead of having my usual back down sets of 4s, we're gonna have back down sets of 3s, just to offset some fatigue, so I can be feeling good going into this upcoming training week. As whether, you know, we decide to push it more from last week or just kind of reset everything, just want to still make sure that fatigue is offset and mitigated. Now, since I already went ahead and gave you guys like a good little easy applicable tip for bench, I want to go ahead and do the same thing today for my for squats and deadlifts. Especially if I'm not lifting anything heavy, I want to give you guys something informative out of this. So about to start warming up for squats, and then when we get to my first working set, I'm going to show you guys a quick, easy applicable tip to make your squats feel a lot better position-wise, and I'll do the same thing for deadlifts.
All right, guys, so we've gotten up to my working weight right now. It's just 4 sets of 2 with 72% of my max. But what I wanted to focus on with this squat, guys, is showing you the importance of keeping the upper back tight. Now, this is a very simple cue. Most of you probably heard it before. I know you've heard it on this channel before, but something that I've been noticing with a lot of lifters is when setting up under the bar, we want to think about, okay, we retract to the bar, we depress, and then we externally rotate the shoulders to get set. And that's great. The problem is a lot of people get so focused on the external rotation part where they try to fight to keep their elbows under the bar for the entirety of the lift. And the issue with that is for some people, if they know what they're doing, that works well because it helps them feel like they're in a more stable position. But a lot of people, they try to force it so much to where they actually end up protracting a little bit. So basically from the side, instead of keeping the back retracted, they're trying so hard to keep the elbows under to where they protract and the upper back loosens so that when they get to the holes, their back gives on them and they tip forward a little bit more. So while I think it's important to set that external rotation up while you're under the bar, once you get under there, you want to squeeze the upper back tight. So what you guys can see, so I'm just warming up, I'll retract, I depress, I get set, and then I externally rotate while I'm getting under the bar like so. Well, a lot of you will try to stay like this the whole time. And for me, this isn't the strongest position to be in. What I want to focus on once I get here is retracting. And it's going to bring my elbows back a little bit, but not so back to where they're jet back behind me like this. And I'm okay with my elbows being a little bit more back because it allows my upper back to stay tighter in a more stable position versus being like this, where on the way down, it'll prone me to tip forward more. So once you get your body set, and you're in that position before you unrack, and I'll have the full squat tutorial video in the description box down below if you haven't seen it, but you want to focus on just squeezing that upper back against the bar as tightly as you can. That's going to keep the bar from rolling up on you. It's going to allow you to keep everything locked in as far as that stacked position, and you're not going to tilt forward in the whole quite as much. So what I'm going to do is show you guys the difference with this first set where I keep my elbows under, which is going to feel kind of weird or awkward for me. You might not see as big a difference because this isn't that heavy, but then I'm going to do the second set the proper way, or rather the way that I prefer to do it, by keeping my upper back tight, and show you what that looks like. So hopefully you guys can see the difference between that first set where I was really just focusing on external rotation and keep my elbows under the bar versus the second set where I was really focusing on being retracted. Notice the deviation of my elbows wasn't that different just because you get better mobility on the bar over time. You're gonna go from being kind of like this to the elbows more under anyway. And how under your elbows are is relative also to how you build and your natural shoulder mobility. There's a lot of people who can have their elbows almost directly under while still keeping the upper back as tight as possible. For me, that's not the case. If I'm keeping my elbows as under the bar as I can be, I'm sacrificing some upper back tightness. And mind you, there's only 72% of my max, like I said, so neither of those look bad. In fact, some of you may even think that the first set looks better, but I'm not going so much for what looks more aesthetically pleasing so much as what's more functional for me, what's gonna allow me to stay in a stronger, tighter position. If I have, 400 plus pounds on my back, or like my max of 501, and I'm trying to just keep the elbows under, I'm going to fold and collapse in that hole because I'm not keeping that back tight. Whereas you guys saw earlier in this video, like with that 463 double I did, by keeping the upper back as tight as possible, it lets me keep full tension, position, and control. It also lets me move a little bit faster into the hole. I'm not a very fast squatter anyway, and I tell you guys all the time, don't sacrifice tension or position for speed, but if I can naturally move a little bit faster while keeping full tension position with my upper back tighter, that's gonna be a lot better than having to tempo it more just so it doesn't roll off my back while having my elbows more under. Once again, this is not to say that it's bad if you have a very more elbows under position. A lot of people squat this way, squat that way purposely because it's more beneficial for them. This is just some general advice for a lot of you watching to try both and see which feels better for you. But at the end of the day, I'm just a strong believer that even if you do have your elbows more under, don't sacrifice it for upper back tightness. Anyway, I'm gonna knock out the rest of these sets, and I'll see you guys on deadlifts.
till there where you go on this side, but like where the heart is
I'm running, you don't wanna start shit. Come on with the hot shit, all they do is talk shit. You can never stop it, boy, just stop that high end jump. All these other motherfuckers full of decisions, and I'm running with precision. I'm over the never listen to me, and that's the Ice Cube, the DOC, the Scorpio and the group that said, fuck the police. Straight you take for the dope, beats the ball when you roll through the hood.
Alright, so you guys saw me work up to my top set of 3 at RP6 with 570 pounds. Nice, easy, moderate weight, and about what I expect to hit today given where fatigue is at. And then I had my back down triples with 436 pounds. Now, the main thing I want you guys to notice, I was going to walk you through this in what I did with squats, but as crowded as it is in here right now, having someone try to walk around and show, I'm not trying to disrupt anybody else's workout. But basically, the main thing I was emphasizing was making sure that when I get the slack out and I wedge, I'm not just thinking about wedging as far as getting my hips in position, but I'm also thinking about shoulders back to get my back tighter. Now, a lot of people confuse this with trying to like retract before you even get to the bar. We don't want to do that, right? Because as you guys see, after I brace, I push my arms out long. A lot of people say like, oh, protract. I'm not thinking about protraction so much as far as like trying to really protract, because that can cause some people to round more than they need to. I'm just thinking about keeping my arms as long as possible, and that's naturally gonna put me a little bit of protraction. But once I get the slack out and I already have my arms long, I'm in that position, from there, I wanna tighten everything together by bringing those shoulders back. At that point, that's not gonna shorten your range of motion the way it would if you try to do it at the top. Like if you get your shoulders back at the top like so, that's gonna make your arms a lot shorter. Right now my arms are longer. If I get my shoulders back at the top, my arms are shorter, and it's gonna make the range of motion a lot longer on the deadlift. But after you get the grip locked in, by thinking about me getting my shoulders back, I'm keeping my back in a tighter position to where all I have to focus on is keeping that tight and pushing into the ground as hard as I can. It's basically a leg press off the ground. What I often find is a lot of people, they'll get their arms long, they'll get the slack out, and they'll wedge into the bar, but they won't think about getting their shoulders back. So their back isn't as tight as what it could be. So as they start to push, their back starts to give more, because the weight's already trying to pull us into protraction. And a lot of people say it's trying to pull you into protraction, just stay there. But my mindset is, well, let's still stay as tight as what we can, so that way even as it tries to pull against us, we're in this tight static position, so it makes our lockout nice and smooth, versus if our back is looser, when we lock out, it has to be legs, hips, and then kind of getting the shoulders back anyway. So I'm basically already staying my shoulders in that locked out position once I wedge into the bar. Just remember, wedging isn't about trying to so much wedge the weight off the ground, so much as it is, once we get the slack out, we're wedging our body into the proper start position as far as the hips, the shoulders, so from there, it's just a leg press off the ground. So that's what I wanted y'all to focus on. I'm about to just finish up my accessory work for the day, and then that'll be it for this video.
All right, guys, second voiceover to close this video out, and I really just wanted to emphasize with you guys how, you know, the cues, or really more than anything, like the tips that I gave you guys in this video, you know, make sure you keep the wrist cocked back and don't have the wrist wrap so tight on bench to where you can't keep the wrist cocked back. Making sure that you're properly retracting on the squat versus just overly focusing on keeping the elbows under the bar. Making sure that you're keeping your upper back tight on deadlifts by cueing like, you know, shoulders back or upper back tightness. None of these are, you know, new or revolutionary things at all. In fact, they're the opposite. These are very simple, basic things that a lot of you were, you know, probably taught earlier on in powerlifting or your general strength training career. But I think it's important that we always don't get away from the basics. I think it's so easy to get caught up in a bunch of new stuff and things that are nuanced. And not to say there isn't a lot of nuance to powerlifting related things. There definitely is. I've covered a lot of those things myself. And a lot of things do come down to the individual and what your goals are, absolutely. But certain things I feel are kind of just important staples. And it's easy for us to get away from those staples when we get so caught up in trying every single new thing. But I told you guys this time and time again, you need consistency. When it comes to your technique, you need consistency. When it comes to cueing, you need to understand the difference between general cues, which are, you know, kind of stuff we use for everyone across the board, versus individual cues that may be specifically good for you, and to not get so caught up in just trying to do every little thing the way somebody else is, or trying all this brand new stuff and throwing out those things that you already know to work for you, because that is very, very important to stay consistent. If you're not consistent, then you can't build. Like, you can only build so much strength if you're constantly changing your technique over and over and over. And that's why I kind of want to emphasize those things in this video, because I felt like those are like just pretty basic staples that anyone can take and apply. That doesn't even really drastically change your technique. If anything, it just helps reinforce it. But yeah, just wanted to take the time to say that, guys. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go in the comment down below, let me know what you did. If you're not, leave a comment down below, let me know what can be better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific, and I'll catch you guys later.